We're live. 6:59. Get out of the
Should we listen? Let's see if we can hear you.
test.
You're live now. Should we listen?
All right. So hello, everyone. For those who do not know me, I am Max Barrows, and I work for Green Mountain Self-Advocates in Vermont, and I am the Outreach Director. We are a statewide disability rights organization with over 600 people with disabilities involved in 23 local groups throughout the state of Vermont. I am a person with a disability. I have autism, and I'm proud of it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. And I think you should feel the same thing about who you are as a person. So the way this Facebook Live session is going to work is, first of all, I want to thank everyone for, kind of tuning in. And the way this is going to work is you're going to see and hear us live. And if you want to ask questions or comment, type it into the chat box. So like if there's a thing you want to ask me, type it into the chat thing and I will do my best to answer it. And if there's any questions that we didn't get to on this session, we will do our best to get back to them on our next Facebook Live session that we have down the road. So with that said, I want to start out by giving out to shout out to the word of our sponsors. We are part of SARTAC, which is stands for Self-Advocacy Resource and Technical Assistance Center. That is a mouthful, and don't dare to say it 10 times fast, but that's what it means. So we have this great Facebook page where we share anything and everything you need to know about self-advocacy groups and just self-advocacy in general. Plus, we have a website, and it is selfadvocacyinfo.org, all one word. You will see it. And it is full of information, trainings, videos, all about self-advocacy, the work we do, and what you need to know about your local advocacy groups, and the list goes on and on. So this is the 4th Facebook Live event that we have done. And so without further ado, let's begin by talking about the upcoming national conference, the Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered National Conference. It is in June, and the dates are June 7th through the 9th of 2018, which is next year. So you can Google it by going to www.sabeconference.org, all one word. And it is in Birmingham, Alabama, which is a city that I highly recommend because it has a lot of great and powerful civil rights history to it. So, why not have a conference there? Because, our work that we do and what we speak up about has to do about civil rights. So I highly recommend the city of Birmingham, Alabama, and what a great place to have a conference. So one of the things that's been kind of floating around self-advocacy is, how much money it costs or how people are going to go when it comes to spending money. So you may be wondering how you get that money or if you need money to go. And so on this live session, I am challenging anyone who is listening to write me in the chat box. Tell me what you do to raise money to go to the national conference. So as you are thinking about what you want to write me in the chat box in that regard, I'm going to start out by just sharing with you a few ideas. So I would say start saving your money now. Definitely start saving your money now. Make a budget and try to save money each week. Here's an example, like if you started saving, let's say $25 a week, today you should have $750 by the time of the conference. Other ideas, tell the people in your life, like it could be friends, it could be family, it could be, service coordinators. It could be staff that support you or you're around, that you want to go to this conference and ask them to help you raise the money. And I highly recommend when you do this, be a broken record, not a skipping CD, a broken record. Other ideas that come to mind here, I would say all states have something called developmental disability councils, or it's called a DD council for short. I spell it out. Most of them give grants to people with developmental disabilities and family members to support attendance at conferences. And just Google like your developmental disability councils or DD councils to find one near you. As your service agency, or ask your service agency to help you out. If you receive services, contact the director of your agency and ask how they can help you get the money you need to support to go to the conference. People do that up here in Vermont. And before I go on and on here, I just want to take a break and just say enough of me talking, because I could go on and I don't want to blabble too much information. And just anybody out there, if you have any ideas, please feel free to share them. About getting money to go to the national conference. Please do write to me. About ideas that you have raising money. I would love to hear them, because, I like to learn and listen to other people, because it gives me ideas myself if I listen to others. Let's see, as you're doing that, I don't know if there's any questions that are coming to the chat box.
There's one. How do I convince people to help self-advocates to go to the national conference?
So I see a question here in the chat box from, and it says, how do I convince people to help self-advocates to go to the national conference? Oh, word of mouth. So first of all, I can say that the way I do it is I give my, example of a previous experience of what it's like going to national conferences. I say, hey, if you've ever been to a state conference, it's like that times 10. And you meet people from all over the country. Diversity is just awesome. You learn and, from self-advocates throughout the country. And just it's, we have 1,000 people that go to the conference, and it's a blast. It's a learning experience. For those who've been to a national conference, really share your experience and use that as a tool to convince people to go to these national conferences. Also to convince people to help you go to national self-advocacy conferences. Like I said before, when you are finding ways to raise money, speaking to your agency directors, contacting them and your DD council and stuff, really kind of share your experience of, going to a national conference and why it's important to go to a future one, and even learn, take what you've learned from other people that have shared their experience going to a national conference. Really a good way to convince people to help you go to a national conference and help self-advocates to go to a national conference, if that answers your question. So unless there's other questions or comments that people have wrote to me, and as I wait and you guys are kind of having your minds chug along, I'm going to go along and just share some other ideas about ways you can, you can convince people that you want to go to the national conference and get money to do that. Write a letter to your family and friends. Tell them, then instead of giving you a holiday present or a birthday present, that you want them to give you money toward your trip. Maybe that's the holiday present or birthday present, you know? I mean, be clever that way. Sometimes people do that, and it works. I would say write a letter to to United Way, your Elks Club, or whatever club you have in your state. Your VFW. What does VFW stand for?
Veterans Foreign Wars.
Veterans Foreign Veterans of Foreign Wars. Thank you very much. Veterans of Foreign Wars, you know, club, or if you belong to a mosque or a church or a synagogue, tell them about the conference and definitely tell them why it's important for you to go. If you go to the conference, you will learn about speaking for yourself. You will meet famous self-advocates. I kind of said this before, but this is getting in more in-depth detail. You will meet famous self-advocates who are national leaders. You know, it's a good way to meet new friends and get connected. And it, you know, definitely has a lot of workshops that people with disabilities teach themselves that are very interested, and they are just having fun, and you will have fun if you go to a conference. I highly recommend it. You know, other ideas about, you know, about just getting money to go. Get going with bottle drives at local companies that, you know, have lots of employees. Put out a large box at a company with a poster on it. The poster should describe your self-advocacy group, what you guys are all about, talk about the conference, and say why why you want to go to a national conference. And you will need to go to the company at least once a week to collect the bottles while you're doing that. There's another question that I see on the chat box here from a person named Don Chapman. How you doing, Don? Glad you can join us. So your question is, how can I get my voice to be heard? I believe this is about self-advocacy. Don, I will say that this is definitely a question I've asked myself when I got involved in self-advocacy. And it's also a question that, you know, I answered to myself as to why I got involved in self-advocacy. Don, there are many ways you can get your voice heard. I don't know if you are on any kind of boards or committees, or you go to like a town meeting of yours that you have, you know, and I know I attend town meetings and I speak up about things or address things to people that are important, that, you know, are about people with disabilities or anything on my mind. So, you know, I would say start with doing that. Go to town meetings. Mm-hmm. If you work or are involved in, you know, self-advocacy, whether or not it's, you know, like in your state or a local group, find out from other self-advocates if there's any events that, you know, are coming up that have to do somewhat with human rights or, you know, something, and, you know, attend those events and just, you know, get your voice heard that way. If you are on a board or committee, that's a good way to get your voice heard. And, you know, just, again, this is another reason why you should go to like conferences. If you already go to state conferences, state self-advocacy conferences, that's a good way to have your voice heard. Also get involved in self-advocacy, you know, teach some workshops and, you know, tell your story within a workshop that you want to teach at your state conference, or think of one where you want that you want to tell if you want to go to a conference, or if you already do that. I would say internally, one thing that I have taught myself and I teach other self-advocates is, you know, believe in yourself. You have to like believe in yourself if you want to get your voice heard, because if you don't believe in yourself, that's not going to do you any good when you speak up about something that is on your mind and be effective at it. So definitely believe in yourself. And do not go alone. Take a friend with you if you go to an event or go to a conference if you like, or you know, you want to go somewhere where you want to have your voice heard, to like a town meeting. That way they can provide like support for you, and that way you wouldn't feel as much stage fright as, you know, it's normal to feel, because if you feel stage fright, that means you want to do well. But yeah, take a friend with you to support you. And also, who knows you better than you know yourself? You know your life best, and keep speaking until someone listens, because you will have your voice heard and someone will listen to what you have to say. Do not give up, Don, and I hope you take this in consideration, and I hope I answered your question. Speaking up, I will tell you, takes practice. It takes practice for me. It still is an ongoing thing for me when it comes to you know, speaking up, is practice. You know, do it by sometimes looking in the mirror, you know, or practice with a friend. Like, you know, I do that all the time with my friends or colleagues, and it works. Like, as in other words, rehearse what you want to say. And so just practice however you can, but it always takes practice, and that's part of being, you know, a good self-advocate with a voice. It looks like there's more questions, but
Okay, yeah. I'm also thinking, Max, a final note is just to keep positive.
I would say, you know, a final note is really to keep positive. I know it can be hard sometimes, you know, you know, sometimes you'll run into situations where, you know, your, you know, emotions can kind of stir up a little bit, but always try and keep positive. And one thing that I would say in that regard is, if you feel negative, if you feel like angry or sad or disappointed, try and channel that feeling into strength that you can use to really kind of use it to, you know, kind of speak up for, you know, what you believe in, and like do it that way. It's hard, but it really, in the long run, it definitely benefits. So yeah, stay positive. Whatever you do, stay positive. I think I have more. I think, yeah, from you, Don. I think you have another question for me, which is great. How can I be a motivational speaker? Because I don't like the way the disabled get treated at times, and I'm not afraid to speak in front of people. Well, that's good. You're not afraid to speak in front of people. I would say motivational speaker. You know, it all, you know, again, it goes back to believing in yourself. You know, that's the way you can be a motivational speaker. Just believe in yourself, because you can do it. I'm glad that you expressed to me that you are not afraid to speak in front of people. Maybe use that as a way of teaching other people that may be afraid of speaking in front of, you know, people. Use your experience, take what I'm giving you as advice, and maybe help other people who want to be motivational speakers like you. And you're right. This is why it's important to speak up. People with disabilities, you know, when you live in a world where having a disability is seen as a bad thing, you know, it's great to speak up about why it's important for the world to not see a disability as a bad thing, and also stand up to discrimination and, you know, forms of oppression toward people with disabilities. And you know, you know, taking all that in consideration, the more you believe in yourself, the more you stand up and speak up for what you believe in, you know, and the more people hear your voice, because of course you want to hear your voice heard, you know, that will get you to be a motivational speaker. You know, I will tell you, I have faith in you. I would say, you know, put together a resume, maybe go to Vogue Rehab for help to get, you know, nice clothes, because of course it's, you know, good to look, you know, spiffy, you know, as you see, I'm, you know, maybe you can teach me a little bit, like maybe down the road, if, you know, somehow I run into you, maybe of what you have done to look spiffy yourself, because I always like lessons from other people on how to look nice. But you know, find some nice clothes, you know, have Voc Rehab get to you to find some nice clothes, or any friends or anyone you trust. Find someone you admire who is a speaker and ask for advice. I do that. You know, I have looked up to people that I have met through my work as being, you know, a speaker in the self-advocacy movement. And, you know, that's helped me become a motivational speaker, and really has influenced me to be a speaker. And also, too, just in general, just self-advocacy, you know, this is a good way where you can have people like, you know, mentor you. You can find mentors that believe in you. You can look to them for advice, but, you know, they sort of like take like what they have observed of you and kind of use it as a tool to kind of motivate you even more, because they see that you have potential. And this is how mentors, people that mentor you can, that can, you know, mentor you to help you and like continue to help you become a motivational speaker. So these are all good questions. And I see that there's another question that you've asked me: how can I tell my story because I have had bad experiences with staff and the way they have spoken to me at times? Well, I can tell you, one way to tell your story is to really, you know, sometimes if you go to your self-advocacy group or something, that's a way to tell your story to people that you trust. You know, what helps is when you connect with other peers. You know, this is why I believe, you know, and I call this a peer-to-peer connection is important, because sometimes it's hard for people to tell their stories or speak up for, you know, what they need and want and how to express themselves when they look for other resources like, you know, staff, where, you know, they're not bad or anything, but sometimes, you know, the information that they get or the advice that they can get can feel too biased or sugar-coated. And so, you know, connecting with other peers will definitely help you with, you know, getting the, you know, getting you motivated to tell your story, because, you know, there's a lot of self-advocates that you connect with, and connecting with another peer that has shared the same, if not similar, experience with you will help you find a way to tell your story and be brave. And this is why it's important to connect with other peers, because, you know, you realize you're not alone. And, you know, you realize that you know, you do belong out there, and there's other people that have been through experiences like you, and you may hear them tell their story to you, and, you know, learn from them, you know, connected with them in that way. And that's a good way to tell your story and have, you know, the courage to do that. And of course, like we encourage in self-advocacy, it's good to step out of your comfort zone into your courage zone. And that way it will definitely build strength in you to tell your story and to speak up for what you believe in. I would say other advice I would give is ask the director of your agency if you can help teach to, you know, new staff that may be working for your agency. If you know of one, or if you're getting services from one, that's a good way to tell your story. And just if there's any events where you could probably attend that have to do with human rights or self-advocacy, like not just going to your agency, but maybe like anybody in your community, like, oh, maybe the police department or fire department or EMTs or stuff, that you want to tell your story about, you know, growing up with a disability and how they can help support and connect with people with disabilities better. That's another way of doing that. There are many ways, and these are good questions. But you know, those are ideas that I have. You know, just continue to connect with people when you want to tell your story. And Don, I will say, hang in there. You are a strong self-advocate. I really do have faith in you, even though I haven't met you in person, and I've only met you through this chat box on this Facebook Live session. I will say that please have faith in yourself. You are strong. You can do it. People have to tell me that every day, and I take that as encouraging advice to stay strong, because you're a strong self-advocate. Have faith in yourself. Hang in there. I'm going to take a commercial break. This is just a commercial break. And I just want to, again, shout out to all of our sponsors. And again, this Facebook Live is through the SARTAC Self-Advocacy Resource and Technical Assistance Center. Again, do not try and say that 10 times fast because it's a mouthful, but that's what it stands for. So again, shout out to SARTAC, shout out to everybody who comes to our SARTAC page. And again, excuse me for doing this, the website is the selfadvocacyinfo.org. If you want to, just check out our SARTAC page. It has everything and anything you need to know about self-advocacy. We have videos, trainings, etc., all that good stuff you want to know about self-advocacy. So check it out. All right. So SARTAC, just to continue to brag about them, is a very cool website, and because it's run by self-advocates. It's definitely run by self-advocates. That's great. I mean, talk about self-advocates taking charge of, what they want to know and what they need to know. Definitely running a website, peers taking charge. I like it. So yeah, visit, check it out. And I see that person who I know, a good friend of mine, going back to high school, is on Persephone. Say, hello, Persephone, glad you can join. Thank you for joining. I think I got another comment from in the chat box, and it says, "Disabled speak for themselves. That only way done. The only way done."
Yeah. Great.
I agree. Great comment. Yes, it's the only way to speak up for ourselves. Who knows us better than we know ourselves? A lot of people say that, when it comes to people with disabilities, the experts know about us. But if you really want to know the truth, we're the experts because we're the ones who experience a disability. So, we know how to tell it like it is. So that's what I have to say in response to your comment. You're absolutely right, Synth Larry. And it's your first time here. Well, I'm glad. Welcome. And I'm glad you can join. And so anybody that is, listening to me and can see my face through your computers or whatever device you're using, please feel free to ask me, anything you'd like to ask me, because let me tell you something. I don't want to just talk to you. I want to answer your questions, because how can I actually do my job without learning and listening?
Let me ask you a question. Do you see it?
So I do have another question from my, from someone like Persephone here. Would GMSA be okay with cannabis cannabis workshop at Voices and Choices conference? I don't see a problem with that. I don't think GMSA has a problem with that. So yeah, good question. We'll definitely keep that in mind. Thanks for asking. Anybody else have any questions? Feel free to join. Feel free to ask. I don't want to talk too much, because of course it's going to come to the point where I'm not going to be able to, feel my mouth anymore, because it's going to get tired. And again, I can't do my job effectively if I don't, learn from you guys. And one way of learning is to ask questions. I'll do my best to ask questions.
Was there any other advice you had for how people could raise money for the national conference?
Alrighty, yeah, I think there is. So the question was if there's any advice I have for people to raise money, going back to the raising money part. Yeah, a lot of people do a lot of things when it comes to raising money. Have a dance, bake sale, there's a bowl-a-thon, people, do dinners, people do wine tasting, and this is a way to involve people who have lots of money for donating. I would say you can also use a different form of fundraising, such as GoFundMe.com. GoFundMe is a fundraising website where you can create a campaign like fundraising for the Self Advocates Becoming Empowered Save National Conference, where you enter information about yourself and why you are raising money to attend the event. It is, you know, a creative way to gather support for a larger population. You can add photos or videos to the GoFundMe page for your event, and you are interactive with your community by sharing stories of getting close to your goal. So there you go. I mean, that's, you know, those are other ways you can fundraise.
Did you mention the bottle drive thing? I don't know. Did you talk about that yet?
I don't think I did mention the bottle drive thing
Especially
yet.
like put the boxes in companies and stuff. Maybe talk about that idea. Pretty cool. You had that up above?
I think I do. I would say another way of doing this is, thank you for reminding me, I would say bottle drives are definitely ways to raise money. Get going with a bottle drive. I would say, you know, bottle drives at local companies that have lots of employees, you know, put out a large box at a company with a poster on it. The poster should describe your self-advocacy groups, talk about the conference, and say why you want to go to the national conference. And you will need to go to the company at least once a week to collect the bottles.
One local group that raised over $1,500.
I know that to my awareness, we had one local group that raised over $1,500 doing a bottle drive. So congratulations.
By putting a box at a company.
And what they did was they did put what I just described. They put a box in the company that they collected and did the bottle drive for. So yeah, that's, you know, that use that as a motivational way to get a bottle drive going to raise money.
I don't know what Downs thing is. Did she tell you what it is? It's something about you can now do Downs.
Let's see.
On Facebook as well.
I got a thing from again Persephone. You said you can now do a down sting on Facebook as well. If you can do me a favor and describe what that is to the best of your ability, that would help me out a lot. So I can try and see what you are, you know, what you're talking about. As you're doing that, there was a question that we got from a person named Joshua Derrick, and his question was about, you know, self-advocates getting involved in meetings. And let me just read it. And it says, some of the self-advocates from my self-advocacy group want to know if there is another way of attending self-advocacy events without having to go to the event in person because of lack of public transportation and supports. They also want to know, other than using Facebook Live, how they could attend monthly regional self-advocacy open meetings without having to go to the meeting in person due to lack of supports and transportation. Is there a way for regional self-advocacy open meetings to be more accessible to all, especially for those who live in rural areas who have limited access to public transportation and can't get to the meetings in person? Well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked it. Thank you, Joshua Derrick. I would say first idea is to have conference calls. There are free conference call lines that you can access. So maybe have an in-person meeting 4 times a year and have, you know, a meeting once or twice a month in between on the phone. Or you can have a conference call, a conference phone at your meeting, and those who can't make it to your meeting in person can call in on whatever line you use. We've done that when we are in meetings. Joshua Derrick also said that a lot of people do not have computers. Good point. push for people to get, you can get them for less than $100. I would say then you can use tablets or, video chat for free with Google Hangout. But yeah, I do keep that in mind that not everybody has a computer, but those are ways to actually, not use a computer and get like a tablet or something where you can chat free with Google Hangout. I do know that a lot of government offices like Social Security and Voc Rehab have video conference setups. You can ask if you can have a regional meeting using their video setups. So people go to the Voc Rehab office in their town, and then they can be a part of a meeting through video conferencing. It is kind of like being on television, so be prepared to be live when you do that. People can get smartphones and use free Wi-Fi to, chat through video. I know that a local group in Rutland, Vermont, this is a very rural area, and what they do is they apply for a grant from their town's public transportation service, and they use money to pay for a minibus to go around and pick all of their members up to come to their meetings once a month. I also know that a lot of agencies have vans sitting in their parking lots or in their driveways after 5 o'clock, so why not have your self-advocacy meeting in the evening and get an ally to use the agency van to get people rides. And I do know too that the groups could hire somebody's parents to provide, transportation or taxi service for people who need rides. So, thank you very much for that question. I hope those answers, even though there were a lot of answers, help you out. So I see that.
Start a self-advocacy group. Do you see that one? Larry?
Yeah, I do have another one, and it says, want to start self-advocacy group, how can I go about doing that? My first word of advice is don't do it alone. I would say also get a few other people with disabilities to join your team to get a group going. We also have a booklet that we can send you that talks about the different ways that you can start a self-advocacy group, about how to start a group. Also, I would say, number one, make sure self-advocates are in charge of your meetings. Definitely have them be in charge of your meetings and have an ally there just to make sure that you don't get stuck. But really, self-advocates, people with disabilities should really be in charge of your meetings. So yeah, keeping that in mind, and we will love to share information about how to go about doing that we can send you. So if you have contact, like an email, feel free to, send it our way, and we can send you a booklet with some of that advice. I think because I've been talking so much, I'm going to go ahead and take another commercial break.
Good idea.
And I'm going to say once again, a shout out to our sponsors, and shout out to SARTAC. Again, SARTAC standing for Self-Advocacy Resource and Technical Assistance Center, which is a mouthful of a title, but it's a really cool website. It has everything and anything you need to know about self-advocacy, how to strengthen your self-advocacy groups or organizations. It's information for self-advocates, provided by self-advocates, run by self-advocates. I definitely recommend that website. Selfadvocacyinfo.org is the website. So check it out. There's all kinds of good information, all kinds of good stuff on the website, all provided by self-advocates to self-advocates.
You know what I'm thinking of, Max? Are you going to go back to one thing I was thinking about Larry's question? That's kind of like, one thing that's really important is like, how when people come together in a group,
all right,
they love to connect with each other.
Okay.
And, because it's like a real peer-to-peer connection thing.
Right.
And I'm wondering also if, like, you could talk a little bit about how it's important you got to do some business, but make sure you do check-ins and that you really take time to provide like emotional support to everyone.
That's a really good thing to bring up.
Check-ins and how that can be so helpful.
Yeah, I would say like when you are getting together with self-advocates at a meeting, it's great. I know going down to business is key, but it's great to really kind of, you know, check in with people to see how they're feeling, because sometimes things could, you know, come up where it could stir up people's emotions. Really, it's good to, you know, kind of check in with them, see how they're doing, making sure what is being discussed in the meeting is understood. And also just, you know, this is also a good thing to do in this regard. This is why it's important when you are meeting, maybe having something like maybe group agreements, getting into that a little bit. A lot of people say, you know, we have ground rules, but what I've gotten for feedback is we like to say group agreements because then everybody's got a say in whatever you guys agree to when it comes to keeping a meeting going. And stable, because sometimes the term ground rules can sound like another, you know, rule where, you know, you have to follow and like you don't have any choice but to follow it, and you know your opinion is not welcome. And I think that group agreements also is a way to also check in with people and see how they're doing, and you know, just kind of helping them keep their emotions in check. Not telling them like how to feel, but even just encouraging them like to stay positive and stuff. So, so yeah, just keeping that in mind when you run, you know, self-advocate group or like have meetings and stuff. I don't know if there's any more questions. If you guys have,
I got a flash that Eric Treat just wrote a comment, but I don't really see it. Darn it. Oh, Nicole.
So,
oh my gosh.
I love you guys, says Persephone Ringenberg. We love you too. Thank you very much. And you know, we love you and we love everyone that's joining. And I know I haven't met you in person, but I want to just throw that out there. All right.
Says it's loading his comment.
Yeah. So.
Do you see any comment there, Max, from Eric Treat?
I don't.
You could give a shout out to Eric.
I would say that I would like to give a shout out to someone in the name of Eric Treat. I was on the SAY board with him. Eric, it's good to have you on. Somehow your question is still loading, but I know you asked one, and I would like to see it so I can answer it. But I want to just say that welcome, Eric. I'm glad you can join this Facebook Live, and I'm glad that you can join. I see Juliana came on from Arizona. Juliana, I hope it's warm out there still. It's gotten cold here in Vermont because it's finally fall, and I'm not prepared for it. But thank you very much for being on. Juliana, thank you so much for being on. And I'm glad you can join. And if there's any questions you have, please, you know, shoot them this way, because I like questions. And again, I'm beginning to run out of things to say. So I think questions will definitely help me talking. She's also with Teresa and George and Bill Story. And it's 95 degrees in Arizona, according to what she says. So that is definitely the opposite of what it is here. And I'll tell you, it was 25 degrees a couple times at night. So yeah, we had our furnaces running in our house. So I'm, you know, scraping the ice off of our windshields, and you know, it's not going to be long until we have our fire stoves, or my fire stoves going, or pellet stoves or whatever. So yep. I'm glad you can make it and somehow bring some of that warm here, even though it's going to be hard to do because it's up to Mother Nature to tell us how warm or cold we should be, depending on where we live. Thanks for joining, Juliana. Welcome. Please feel to ask questions.
Why don't you ask them in Arizona, tell them that we spent a lot of time talking about fundraising for the national conference. Do they have any ideas from Arizona?
I do have a question for Arizona. If you're on, Juliana, I wonder if you have any ideas that you can share with us about fundraising for the national conference, because I know that's also been probably discussed in your area too. And I know that I've been kind of talking at people about ideas, and I flooded them with ideas, even though they're all good. And I'm wondering if you can share us any ideas of what you've done maybe in previous years to share with us about how you guys have raised money for national conferences. And so Juliana she's going to ask that question to the people that she's with or she's connected to. I guess just, again, a quick shout out to our sponsor, SARTAC. SARTAC, thank you so much. This is a great resource that we have, self-advocacy resource and technical assistance center. And so shout out to SARTAC and all the good work that they are doing and all the good stuff that's on their website. All right, I see that Juliana shared some things. She said, go to family and friends and ask about, ask companies they work with. Speak with your network. That's good. That's definitely what I was saying before, so thank you for echoing that. I would say just get the word out. Get the word out to people that you know, family, friends, developmental disabilities councils, agencies, people that you know and trust in your life. Just anything you can do to get the word out about a national conference, because let me tell you, they're worth going to, and share your experience for those who've been to a national conference when you get the word out and why it's important to go. I would say another thing that I got here, Juliana is saying, inform people what you are doing and keep them up to date. That's great. I would echo that. So yeah, you know, that's definitely important when it comes to wanting to go to a national conference.
Can you also, Persephone wanted to know what part of Arizona that Juliana and George and those guys are from.
So it seems, I think a question I have from my friend Persephone on the this chat here is, she's curious to know what part of Arizona that you are from, Juliana, if you don't mind answering. And because she's curious, of course, like a lot of people would be. I know where you're from. I can say you're from the Phoenix area, and I've been to Phoenix. It's a great city. It's one of the biggest cities in our country, and it's very warm and comfortable out there. And I do know that they have a lot of dust storms, and I remember being in one when I was at a meeting out there. It was a sandstorm. So yeah, that's where, you know, Juliana's from. I don't remember all of the other people are from, but I think that, you know, I can say Juliana.
All from around in that area.
It seems like they're all from around in that area. So correct me if I'm wrong, Juliana, but my friend Persephone wanted to know. She's lived there since she was a baby, and she grew up in Flagstaff in the mountains, and now she lives in Phoenix.
See people go out to the community, a little more stuff about reason money for the city.
Great, I cannot go up. So, if you don't mind reading.
Yeah, sure. She says, go out to the community, not just the DD community.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so, okay, thank you very much. Oh, so go out to your community and not just the DD community. This is more advice on how to get the word out about the national conference and why it's important to go. All right, thank you. I didn't see that. Thank you very much. Good points. Very good points. George is from Phoenix too, Persephone. So if you want to know more about where other people are from, there you go.
I actually want to talk a little bit more about the national conference. We just have a few minutes.
The only other things I have about the national conference is, you know, again, Birmingham, Alabama is where it's going to be, 2018. It is sabeconference.org. That's the website you can go to have more information. June 7th through the 9th of 2018 in Birmingham, Alabama. Definitely a place where I would recommend to go. I've been to Birmingham, Alabama. Great civil rights history. And it's a great location to have a conference that has to do with civil rights for people with disabilities. You know, definitely a conference that I would recommend through experience. You will meet everybody and anybody from like all over the country, and diversity is great. You'll meet people from all kinds of like backgrounds, and you will learn so much at a conference. And
Do you know what the
you know,
conference theme is this year?
I forgot.
It is.
The conference theme this year is, and I think I know, but I do not. Let me just think about it for a second. They may be pulling it up in a second. But again, go to a national conference. It's like your state conference, but it's like 100 times as good.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make it happen. That is the theme to the national conference. All right, let's make it happen.
Disability rights are civil rights.
Disability rights are civil rights. Right on point to where the conference is going to be and what it's going to be all about. So yeah, let's make it happen is the theme. You know, disability rights or civil rights to the that's the theme of our national conference. Go, people. Do whatever you can to raise money. Get the word out. Tell people why it is important for you to go to this national conference. I recommend it. Those who have been to a national conference, share your experiences to get the word out as to why it's important for you to go. Start saving your money now. Don't wait another minute. Don't wait another second. Start saving your money now. Definitely.
And Max, I think that they're looking for presenters for the national
And
conference.
also they are looking for presenters for the national conference. So if you have anything you want to, you know, present on, any like workshops you want to do, trainings you want to do.
And there's different categories of trainings that they're looking
please,
for.
you know, please feel free to share. They are looking for presenters. According to the website, they are looking for presenters on these categories: the right to independent living, friendship, relationship, sexuality, marriage, spirituality, creativity, and artistic expression, community building, community living, supported decision-making, person-centered planning, peer support, family support, direct support, micro boards, health and wellness, and self-determination. They're looking for presentations on the right to financial independence, careers, employment, budgeting, financial planning, micro enterprises. I don't know.
Like running your own business.
Running your own business,
like
basically.
Small businesses.
Running your own small businesses, that's what they mean by micro enterprises. Right to self-advocacy, education, housing, and transportation. These are all the things we're looking for presenters to present on. Right to civil rights and political power, communicating with your representatives, voting, understanding important legislation, closing institutions, civil rights, running for office, direct action, self-advocacy organizing, grassroots organizing, being a good citizen, involvement in communities, volunteering, supporting, and the list goes on and on.
So if anybody wants to
present, you know, again, so saveconference.org, and there is a link on the website where you can go where it will say call for presenters, and it has all of the categories of what they're looking for people to present on. I see more comments. I would say
I think we're pretty good there.
do a speaking engagement and ask for donation to help pay for your way. That's another good way to get the word you know, out there about the national conference. Thank you, Juliana, for that. So, you know, unless there is anything else that people are burning to ask me, it looks like that we are good for tonight. Again, thank you so much for being on this Facebook Live. And I definitely encourage everyone and anybody to go to a national conference. It is worth it. You will love it. You will not regret a single thing about going. And with that said, thank you so much for listening to me and all of your questions that I love to answer. And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. We will get to them on our next Facebook Live session. And so with that said, everybody have a good night. And I will see you and talk to you on the next Facebook Live session. Thank you very much.
And you know, the other thing
the only thing I would have is,
if they have other questions in between, they can still send us questions.
And if you have any other questions in between, feel free to send them this way.
We'll be glad to get
We
back
would
to
be
you.
glad to get back to you, because questions are good to, answer. That's how we learn. Alrighty. Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody. See you on our next Facebook Live. Thanks.